Well, hello. It's great to be here. I'm Hart Massie from the Business Development Bank of Canada, or BDC, and it's fantastic to be here on Canadian Small Business Week. For today's presentation, we're going to be talking about selling online and taking very much a top view perspective in terms of what to be mindful of if you're about to navigate and go and sell online. Now, prior to me doing this, there's a few things I want to talk about, most importantly around the status of the Canadian economy and some of the insight that BDC is bringing to market and sharing with what we're seeing in the Canadian economy. So there's a few items that I want to walk through very quickly. And the first one is with what we're seeing with respect to labor shortages. Right now, we have noticed that during the COVID-19 pandemic, a number of people who were in a role but maybe went on CERB, what we found is that a number of them have either found alternate employment or pursued education or left an industry entirely and might not be coming back to their previous place of work. So that's putting some stress on Canadian employers to go find new employees, is that some of the people they let go during the early stage of the pandemic might not be there coming back. But also, too, there's a few other things that are impacting the Canadian labor market right now. One of which is the retirement of a lot of baby boomers. Baby boomers are now reaching the point in their career where they can now step back and retire, and deservedly so, for they have had a long career and they deserve a full and healthy retirement. But this is also impacting the Canadian labor market right now as well, because there'll be less and less baby boomers participating in the labor market. Another indicator is that during the COVID-19 pandemic, immigration really halted. And as a result, we were adding less workers to the Canadian economy. So with all these three factors coming into play, be it people who left industry, people retiring, as well as reduced immigration over the pandemic, this is really heightening and building up to a point where we now have less people participating in the Canadian labor force, and as a result, this will create some issues going forward. As well, the other thing too is the rise of e-commerce. Like during the initial stages and mid stages of the pandemic, for companies that weren't online or didn't have a formidable online presence, a lot of them decided to invest in their online strategy. In other words, where they decided to meet their clients and meet their customers online, and as well attempt to attract new customers online. Now, this is great, but this is something that we're going to be talking about in greater detail during this presentation. Now, there's a few other things that we've seen at BDC that it's impacting the Canadian economy that we want to share today. And the other one is remote work. During the pandemic, there were some types of roles that well suited to remote working or working from home, typically, professional positions and positions where they didn't need to go into the office to either manufacture or assemble products. And as a result of that, this has really started to change the way that we look at work, more particularly as we're now coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. There's now a focus in terms of what will the future of work look like? Will we adopt a hybrid model where we would work at home for our individual tasks and then go into the office only a few days a week for some team-based activities? The long stretch of this is that this will have an impact on commercial real estate and how we use offices in the future. And this is something that BDC is keeping an eye on over the next several years as we see how the future of work will unfold, and ultimately what the impact will be on commercial real estate, and if we have to repurpose some commercial real estate in the future. As well, the other impact to Canadian business is the environmental crisis, particularly climate change, as well as limitations that we have on reduction of waste. These two principles in environment are really critical because it's leading to an increase in energy costs as well as leading to an increased cost of business. These costs are inalienable, these costs will exist. So it's a matter of now integrating it within your business strategy and understanding how to reduce your environmental footprint within your business. And then finally, 5, there's dealing with uncertainty. I think it's safe to say that the COVID-19 pandemic is the underpinning of all of it is understanding the uncertainty of it. But there's a few things that we're seeing coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic that have really started to drive home some of the uncertain factors that we're seeing in the future. One of which is the low interest rate environment that we currently find ourselves in. As the economy recovers and interest rates start to rise, businesses are now starting to understand, like what a higher interest rate environment will look like from a business capital perspective, and how it'll influence their future investment decisions. As well, there's a few other things in that we're dealing with in terms of uncertainty. One of which is like the impacts of the supply chain. We've seen container shortages as well as goods and worker shortages in other economies that we trade with. And this is actually reducing the flow of goods into Canada, as well as the flow of goods leaving Canada. And it's having an impact on the economy. As well, another issue too is the chip shortage, which we're seeing have a strong impact in electronics manufacturing and electronic goods. A lot of companies are now understanding that the chip shortage is going to last for more than 12 to 18 months and are having to change their strategy and their products in order to meet with reduced chips in hand. But having said all of that, having said that these are some of the big 5 planks that BDC is watching and sharing insight on with the market, today we're going to be talking about selling online and the rise of e-commerce. When at the beginning of the pandemic, and even before the beginning of the pandemic, if we could just flip to the next slide, that'd be awesome. Thank you. At the beginning of the pandemic and before the pandemic, a lot of companies were deciding that it was time to move online. It was time to open a presence online where they can meet their current clients as well as potential future clients. But what we found with some companies is that they made a bit of a mistake with respect to moving online a little too quickly. There's a saying from the movie, if you build it, they will come. But to move online and to build an online store doesn't necessarily mean that the customers are going to come to you. You have to build a reason in marketing for customers to come to you. So that being said, when companies open their online stores, what they found in some instances is that there was a poor design. In other words, when potential customers were researching a good or service that they were looking to buy, and then putting that item in the shopping cart, maybe because of poor design, it ultimately didn't lead to a purchase decision. Either there was a drop in terms of web traffic, or it was just proved to be too cumbersome for someone to move from getting the product to buying the product. As well, the other thing with online retail and an online presence is making sure that it integrates with your back office or your current procedures. And I say that where by not doing that, if someone were to buy a product online and they were to make a decision and purchase it online, by having it more integrated with your back office, it reduces a higher rate of human interaction you need in your business to help complete that online sale. So in other words, if someone were to buy a product, rather than an invoice coming in or a shipping order coming in and it being converted by a human to make that process happen, and in other online retail environments, typically some of these processes are now automated. And by reducing some of that human interaction, it helps increase the profitability of your online store. Now, also too, and I said this earlier as well, is that some of those mistakes that people made initially when they built their online store was that once they built it, they really didn't invest in the sales and marketing of that website in order to drive traffic, in order to bring people to your website. And so for that, it's essentially like opening a store, but like a physical store, but not marketing it or selling it. It goes for the same for an online store too. And with that, what we found is that some people, after having made an initial investment in online retail, didn't invest in the sales and marketing and search engine optimization to drive traffic to the store, to increase that popularity of the store, as well as attract new customers. Now, moving on to the next slide, we talk about, what it is to have an online presence. We talked about some of the mistakes that other entrepreneurs may have made in the past with respect to going online, but what is an online presence? And it really does extend beyond your online store. And I say that because it's about creating a seamless client experience for your customers. So in that, their purchase decision or their interaction with your online store actually blends with your social media, as well as any follow-up email communications that you have with your client. In other words, it seemed like an online presence really brings together all of these things that you see on our website and helps create a seamless point of purchase for your clients, taking into how they navigate and move through the website, how they navigate the purchase process, and ultimately, what does after purchase look like, and what additional points of marketing and touch points with the client you have after they make their purchase decision to complete the whole purchase project. Actually, just moving on to our next slide too. Now that, understanding what your online presence is, the other thing to really understand too is like, what is your value proposition? And what is and your value proposition is essentially what differentiates you from your clients. Like what is it that really brings, potential customers to you that's different than what your competitors offer. So with that, actually, we can use a little bit of this example here, and we're using a organic baby food manufacturer as an example. So for instance, an organic baby food, their offer or their product that they offer is essentially a healthy organic baby food that's GMO free of high in nutrients, high in vitamins, and is a tasty product to eat. And then the customers for that baby food are the parents. So if it's organic, if it's GMO, typically, this is targeted towards a buying group that is mid-income and has a discretionary spend with respect to their food budget. So typically it's parents who live in Toronto who their main concern is not just feeding their child, but ensuring that their child has a healthy, nutritious meal that's full of all the good things that you want in a meal. And then what is your value? So then your value is like really what differentiates your value from your competition. So in this instance, the value isn't the food that the parents are buying. It's the confidence that the parents have knowing that they are buying a food product that is has a high nutritional value, is organic, will lead to a healthy lifestyle, and will lead to a healthy baby. When you're putting together your online strategy, like understanding your online understanding like how your clients interact with your online strategy is important, as well as really understanding like what is your true value proposition. But the other thing too, and we'll move on to the next slide as well, is that after you build this, like after you build your online store, after you build your online place of business, it's measuring the performance of your online store is critical to ensure success in the future. And I say that because with measuring your online store, you'll be able to determine how long clients research products or how long it takes them to move through the purchase cycle. As well, you'll be able to determine whether people are putting products in the shopping cart and then either not purchasing or maybe in the end taking products out of the shopping cart before moving to purchase. And with all of this information, you'll be able to understand how your clients really interact with the website. And that allows for some fine tuning down the road as well. And it also will help you segment your clients in terms of how their path through the website to help shorten the purchase decision cycle and to get it from a decision cycle to ultimately purchase and turning into a client. I understand that this is very much a 30,000-foot view in terms of like what's available to you and what's available to entrepreneurs as they move online. But I want to say that BDC, along with our advisory community and BDC as a whole, we're committed to Canadian business and ensuring that we provide the tools and strategies and know-how and advice and smarts to help you get online. I just want to move forward to the next slide because there's just a few quick takeaways from this session that I hope you got out of it today. And that is one, to be successful online is to know your market opportunity and to know who your customer base is and how they shop and how to support their shopping journey so that it's enjoyable and it reduces friction, makes it easy. And also we talked about measuring performance and monitoring performance, be it through Google Analytics or a number of online tools that are available to entrepreneurs out there as well. But measure your performance, set goals, monitor your goals, understand how your online store is performing, and don't be afraid to change strategy or tactics so that it performs better. There's a number of tools that are available from BDC as well as the Government of Canada that you can access online. If we could go to the next slide, if you go to bdc.ca/COVID-19, there's a number of tools available to the small business community where you can go online and take advantage of what we offer Canadian entrepreneurs. As well, the Government of Canada on the next slide, if you go to canada.ca/coronavirus, along with public health information that's in that portal, it also includes additional business resources that are still available at this stage of the pandemic. With that, I truly would like to thank you for your time today. I truly hope that this will be a great small business week for you and for you to know that Business Development Bank of Canada, BDC, that we're here for you to provide business advising and smarts and financing to make your business a successful business. And with that, thank you for your time. I hope to see you soon.